Hello, welcome to our Rant, and today's going to be a different kind of video. I'm going to go through some of my own personal work and the process that I use to make paintings as a professional painter. So personally, I am a huge believer in doing studies first. Because to be honest, I learned how to paint from abstract expressionists. So to them, the design of the painting, the color, was most important. And even after all this time, I just can't unlearn that. So when I approach a painting, I look at it from a abstract kind of point of view. Does it work on a design layout level? But again, personally to me, color is most important. So it doesn't matter what the painting is, I will always do a small color study before I go into the large painting. And at first, this might look like a really simple painting. It's just the painting of an eye. But the purpose of the small study was to figure out the color palette that I'm going to use in a larger painting. Because in my recent work, I've been really challenging myself with using neon colors and really working with bright saturation, because I think that in the age of computers and digital media, we are seeing a whole new range of colors that painters in the Renaissance just didn't see. Even painters in the 20th century were not exposed to these bright saturated colors. So I am searching for a way to paint contemporary saturated visuals in a traditional way. So that is my main goal as an artist. And because of that, small color studies are essential to my work, because you don't want to do a whole 4x6 painting and then figure out that the color palette was wrong. Like, that is too much work for me. So I like to do these small studies before I go in and do the big painting. Because as complex as my colors may look, and so much thinking goes into them, when it comes to executing the painting, they are very straightforward and simple. Because I'm not an artist that likes to repaint stuff. I want it done once right, with no mistakes. But it doesn't matter the painting that I'm working on, the small studies can still be sold. So I look to make even my small studies that I do in preparation for a larger painting marketable. So I look to create an interesting composition. So for this painting, yes, it's just an eye. That's basically it. But how do you make a square composition exciting? I went with a really traditional layout. The most interesting part, the pupil, which is the darkest, and the lightest, the reflection, is just dead center. And the rest of the anatomy on the face kind of almost creates like a whirlpool that draws the viewer's eye into the center of the composition. And of course, we all get inspired by different visuals and art history and different artists, but for my inspiration, I kind of usually keep stuff pretty simple. I don't want to combine too many references into one. I want my painting to look like this artist and then this style and then paint it in this way. For this specific painting, I was only inspired by two things. First of all, I was inspired by the way that Da Vinci paints eyes, like the whole sfumato thing. I think so many people overdraw eyes and putting every eyelash and everything when eyes are actually pretty blended and pretty soft. The minimalist in me is thinking about how little information I can get away with in a painting and keep it still very recognizable. So with this painting in particular, I was looking for what can I take away from this image and still keep it very recognizable and keep it an eye. And the second thing I was inspired by, again, I was taught how to paint by abstract expressionists, so I'm always looking for a graphic kind of flag element to a painting. So the next thing that I was inspired by was actually a biohazard sign. I'll put a picture in so you know what I mean. But basically this kind of circular layout, but how can other lines and kind of design elements go and interact with a circle? Sometimes visual stuff is so hard to explain. Like, I just look at the sign and I see a painting in it. And that's basically all I went with. Biohazard sign and Da Vinci. And this is what I came up with. I want to see how little work I can actually get away with doing and keep the image lifelike but saturated still. And basically with this painting, I learned that I can paint the whole painting monochromatic. I can just paint it red and orange, and that's it. And then at the end, I will go in with natural pigments, like all the earth tones, like raw ochre, like burnt sienna, some umber, some Naples yellow, some pale kind of flesh, earthy, natural colors. And it takes so little, just that little suggestion of flesh here to give a suggestion that this is flesh and really kind of make it touchable, even in such a saturated color palette. Because I'm looking for bright saturated colors, but still realistic. I was also thinking about how can I paint hair in a really natural way that's not overworked. And I'll do a whole video on how to paint hair. You don't have to do every single hair, please don't. So with this small study, I was looking to accomplish two things. Understand the color palette that I'm going to use for the later painting. And when I do these studies, I actually eliminate colors from my palette. I'll maybe select 10 colors, 10 actual pigments, and I will use that limited palette in the larger painting. I don't want to get any kind of color confusion when I'm working on a big serious painting that I don't want to mess up. And second, I was looking at how little I can get away with. Please do not paint every single eyelash. This will be so much more powerful because your eye actually does a lot of work for you. If you leave just a suggestion of things, your eye will fill things in. And I always suggest this to my students. Don't start a big ambitious painting without doing a color study first. Figure out what style of art you are planning to incorporate into the painting so that you are not spending the rest of your time just fixing mistakes. And that's basically it for this painting. I also did 2 more studies. Another one of the other side of the face where I'm working more with orange and pink, but still it's a very narrow range of color. And then a full color pencil study. And we'll go over those in the next video.